Welcome back to Skirts and Words. I am Denise Kauai. This is Jen, owner of The Vault, and we have a super awesome guest this week, Diana Kirk. She wrote one of the best books I have read this year. True story.
Yay! It is. I love hearing that.
So, and we're just going to talk about writing and books and traveling to promote books, maybe.
Yeah, I just got back from a book tour. I have a lot of stories from it.
Yeah, I'm anxious to hear
From the
all
book
of them.
tour, the exhausting book tour back east. So, what was your favorite story in my book? I always like to ask people that because they're essays and they're all over the place.
This is going to tell you a lot about me. Period in the desert.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I like doing that one a lot out loud because it's so descriptive of the blood dripping down my legs while I was riding a camel in another country.
It was, definitely uncomfortable. I won't say that it was not uncomfortable, but also I think anyone with female parts has had those moments where, like, maybe not in the desert, but you're somewhere where you just don't have access
You've
to
micro-hemorrhaged your way through something.
And it's horrible. I mean, it's just horrible.
It's horrible. Yes, it is. And that was the slug trail morning, except for my slug trail was walking from a Bedouin tent to a dip in the desert so I could drop my trow and get rid of the blood, but by then it was all over.
Right.
Whereas usually you're like in your house trying to make the like magic run all the way to the bathroom.
Well, and that was the point where I wanted to like Facebook stalk you, find your phone number, find your address, and mail you like a year's supply of whatever your pleasure.
Right.
Just because I felt like we really bonded.
I know, because we can all relate to that. We don't talk about it enough, but I want to buy the world a Diva cup now, because Diva cups weren't a thing when I was on that trip around the world, but I am in love with these stupid little things, and I want to give them out to everybody because they would have changed my life in another country. But now they're everywhere, and I love them.
Yeah.
Because then you could have caught that stuff. They're bigger. There's more absorption there. They're amazing.
Right.
As long as you figure out how to get it all up in there. That's the hard part.
This is all completely horrifying and terrifying to me.
Why?
I was raised without a mom. My mom passed away when I was little, so I was raised by my dad. So I had to learn everything from like Judy Blume or.
Do you think our moms all walked us into the bathroom and like sat there with a tampon and said, "Here"? No. They handed us a box that they ordered from a magazine. Remember that box? Did you guys have them, or are you younger than me? There was this magic box you could get.
I got a paper bag.
So catch it. No, there were these magical boxes, and when you did 5th grade sex ed, you got this coupon thing, and your mom sent away from it, and this box came, and it had like a box of stay-free maxi pads that were like the size of a diaper, and then there was like the how-to and the like You're Beautiful book, and it was this whole thing.
So I have seen those, but I was homeschooled up until.
I think it's so funny that you didn't have a mom to raise you, and you were homeschooled, and this is how you're going to tell me why you can't use a Diva cup. I love this.
No, I don't. I literally don't understand the physics.
Do you understand the physics of a tampon?
I do not know how to use a tampon, and I will say that right now because I don't.
Oh,
welcome
God,
to the
now
podcast,
I feel like
everyone.
I know what we're going to do post-podcast.
I don't know.
There's a lot of women that don't.
It's very scary. I'm not 100% sure how babies are made. I've had 2. And I'm fairly confident that I understand.
I need a piece of paper and a pen.
Okay. You just poop it out. Like, that's what he told me. So.
Yeah, I didn't really understand.
Who told you that?
My son.
Is that you poop babies out?
Yeah.
Well, I think to kids that actually makes a lot of sense. To boys, it makes perfect sense.
I'm still not 100% sure how all of that happens.
Oh, God. So the Diva cup.
They're fantastic.
Is amazing.
I have several friends who use them. I haven't taken the plunge. But
It's a hard plunge. I'm going to tell you, I've had 3 kids home birth that all weighed 9 and 10 pounds, and the learning curve is big, and then once you get it, you got it.
Yeah.
I should own stock. I'm really into them. I think there's a lot of women that are terrified of that stuff. I really think they are.
I feel faint.
No, I think you're in good company because it's all good. It's totally all good.
So if that wasn't your favorite story in her book.
Oh, yeah, we could probably get off because I could talk about blood just like forever.
I like how your first boyfriend was Mormon.
One of my first boyfriends
One of your
was
first
Mormon.
boyfriends.
Yeah, in the story called After, which is about after a traumatic event in my life, I dated a Mormon for a year, and how the two of them balanced out what is probably normal relationships. I like that story a lot. It's probably one of my favorite one. Mom Boobs is my favorite story, though. But after I really because that time in my life was so innocent. I had gone to such a deep, dark place in my teenage years with drugs and sex and just stuff. And then after is about kind of what it was like to just go on movie dates and just go play volleyball and just do kind of, I called it the movie montage part of my life because that's what it felt like. And it was a sweet and innocent time in my life that I really, really liked. But
are you glad that you've experienced the dichotomy of both sides?
Of course. Yeah, of course. I like anything edgy, and even, it sounds ridiculous, but the time even with the Mormons was a learning experience, and it was edgy in its own way. And I'm a bit of a chameleon, so I can fit in that world if I choose to. And when I was done with it, I was just done. It was like a time in my life. But for years, I defended Mormonism because Mormons were super great to me at that time in my life, and most of them were. And I really loved how much stuff there was to do for teenagers. And I think about that now with my own teenagers, and teenagers are relegated to parties and computers half the time. And I was so busy with the Mormons.
Just good, wholesome things to do. I grew up with a Mormon family. One of my best friends was, and they just kind of adopted me because I was this poor half-orphan child. And volleyball and basketball and ice cream and Jell-O, all the Jell-O.
Well, and then when you would go to someone's house, it was like a party because there were 7 of them.
Yeah.
And so there was always, and I was an only child, so to me I was like, this is amazing.
I know, I loved it. And they had dinner every night.
Yeah, all together, and everybody knew where they were.
Yeah.
The part I didn't like as an only child was everywhere we went, we had to take a couple with us. And that kind of drove me nuts. I was like, why do all your sisters have to come? Oh, I don't get that part, but yeah. No, I like that part. My favorite essay in the book is called Mom Boobs.
Is that when you're in Detroit?
It's when I'm in Detroit and I go to a warehouse party, and I still love that story. I still love that I did that. I went to a really scary, I just got in a car with a bunch of people I met at a hostel and drove around Detroit.
The guy in the raincoat.
Yeah. There was a drug dealer in a raincoat, and I was teaching him how to set up an LLC.
Right.
So that he could move his money. I was 45 years old, telling this kid, and we were having a pretty intense business conversation while he was carrying around a bag of drugs and wearing yellow rain slicker in the summer. Yeah. It was I like that story because that's kind of who I am now a lot. I'll just I won't just do anything, but that particular night I did. And I also love Detroit. Detroit is one of the coolest cities I've ever been to. So. Well,
I loved your book on a couple different levels. One is I am a very busy lady. My memoir is called The Woman with 1,000 Hats because I do everything. And so I loved it. You work with construction people, and I mean you travel, and you just kind of do everything.
Well, because I get bored easily, and I bet you do too.
I do.
Yeah.
It's a bad thing sometimes.
It's not. It keeps life fun.
Well, that's true. I'm also exhausted.
I am always exhausted. But you know what? I'm still married after 20 years, and my husband says it's because I'm never boring, and I think it's pretty true.
I would agree with that. I don't even know when we were married. 10?
Because you wear too many hats.
Are we 10 years now? It's been a while. Anyway.
I'm going on 17.
But yeah, it's, anyway, life is fun and interesting, and I really related with, haven't traveled as much, but I've had a lot of the same kind of weird experiences with just rando people that you run into.
Don't you love those people though?
I do.
Love rando people.
My favorite person, and I am so waiting to use him in a book. We went to the emergency room, which is never a fun thing, but we were waiting in the the waiting area, and there was this guy. And this is in Portland, so most everyone there is a hipster or a grandma. And there's this guy. He's 6'6", cowboy boots, tall cowboy hat. He looked like he just came from the rodeo. And he was going from station to station, sniffing hand sanitizer. And I just watched him for 20 minutes. I'm like, you are the most fascinating person I have seen in a while.
He wasn't drinking it?
No.
Because we had when I worked near when I was a paralegal, we had clients in jail that would try to drink the hand sanitizer to get drunk.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is there that much alcohol in it?
You'd have to drink a lot, but they
crazy
still
sauce.
did.
Yeah.
And he was just sniffing it?
Huh. But, so I think it's fantastic. And
Yeah,
I push your book onto people all the time.
Thank you. Well, her and I met kind of rando
Mm-hmm.
because it was the PNBA book show in
First
Portland.
one.
It was your first
I
one.
was
It was
very
my
shiny.
first one.
Yes.
Yeah, we both were. So we were all like, ah. But we didn't really meet because of that. Because I had a thing that night. I was doing it late at night. I'd been asked to do a table. I had, what was it? An hour to give out 90 books to 90
Mhm.
bookstore owners, and I was like, how am I going to pull it off? God, that was a fun time. But I was exhausted, and I met you in the lobby of the hotel where I was talking to everybody, because that's what I do, and I met you, and you were just as talkative as me, and neither one of us really gave much of a shit about what was going on.
No.
Like, there were really serious publishers there, and
Yeah.
there were really serious big New York houses there,
Mhm.
and I was just kind of overwhelmed because there's so many books and so much kind of.
It was super overwhelming. I was
Mhm.
exhausted when I came back, and I was like, I don't know. I couldn't believe that I still can't believe that I get to do that. Like, that's my job.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's insane, and there's books everywhere. No, I was just, actually, I was more excited because you had not opened your bar yet.
Right.
And I was telling you about this place.
Right.
And you were telling me about the bar.
Right,
and I was
yeah.
picking your brain.
Well, and it was totally exciting too because when the thing I got to do was at night, so all the kind of like dirty authors and the like liquor authors all got to do this night event.
The liquor authors.
Well, there were like a whole bunch of whiskey books. That's why I said that.
Not
But
LSCKE.
I was trying to figure out why we were doing this night event. Like, how did I get chosen for that? Because I have a tiny publisher and I am like a nobody author. But I got on this thing, and then they put me next to Willie Vuitton, who's just hot. He's so hot, and I've known about him for years. And he was standing right there, and I was like, hi, whatever. And then we were just slightly talking, and I mentioned that I was buying the Workers Bar in Astoria, and he just changed, and I became like an 8 instantly, like like in a heartbeat. And I was all like, I like had street cred in a whole nother way, where Willie looked at me different. I was so excited.
It was very funny. I could definitely tell I was within my element at that show when the one guy, he's from Olympia, I can't remember his name, he wrote Eating the Apple. He was the young, like, Marine guy. Did you see him?
No.
Okay, well, he was crazy hot. And you could tell that everybody at this book show was like middle-aged librarian types.
God, there were not a lot of hot guys there, so I'm surprised.
No,
like seriously, there were probably 2, Willie and this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was watching his line. So it was the last day, and you could get your book signed or whatever. They were talking, and then you could get your book signed. And his line was super long, and it's all these women in like crazy socks, and they have big dark glasses, and they're
All
like,
New York girls, yeah.
no, they're dorks.
Yeah.
And they're
Well, they were New York dorks.
I'm just watching them like, oh my goodness. And then I went and did that also. I was like, so I own a bookstore, not
I
too far
know.
from you.
Yeah, that kind of stuff is like so hilarious when you. Well, now that I own a bar, it's really funny. So most of the guys that come in my bar are like not someone you would put, that you're checking out pretty hardcore. They usually just got off a fishing boat. They're tired. They're really hungry. They're, overworked, underpaid, blah, blah, whatever. But every now and then one comes in and something weird just happens to me. I'm a grown-ass woman. I've been married for a really long time, and suddenly I'm just 16.
It's so funny.
I know. We had these like big players in our bar once. There were these 5 guys that were on vacation for the weekend, and they were dropping a lot of money. So I was like hanging out with them and keeping them there longer and stuff. God, that was really fun because it was my job. It was my actual job was to flirt and keep them there as long as I could.
I can always tell when you're like not from Castle Rock because the guys will come in and they'll be wearing like a button-up shirt and shiny shoes, and I'm like, you're not from around these parts, are you?
You're so pretty. We don't know what to do with you.
Why are you so clean?
I know.
What's going on with your life?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, we can spot them a mile away.
I know, but that was good to meet you there. I remember you were one of the like 3 people that time that I was there, because I was there all day long, and I had a fever. I was really sick when I was at that thing, and you were like this great thing in the midst of me being really exhausted.
I was a great thing. Can I put that on my business card?
Yes, we should. I was a great thing once.
Yay! One day. Yay! I like being a great thing.
Have you ever done one of these trade shows? Because they're huge.
I have not done a huge trade show. I have done a lot of cons. We go to conventions. My husband and I would go anyway because we are super geeks. And if you have a table, you have a place to keep your stuff. It's fantastic. So I do several, well, this year I'm only doing a couple conventions, but I really love going and seeing just everything.
Yeah.
There's just so much, like, and it doesn't, we used to own a paintball store, we did paintball events, and it's kind of, it doesn't really matter what kind of show you go to, it's all kind of the same. You're just on display for the masses, and
right.
But just the people watching is fantastic. And then
I don't think that trade show was the greatest people watching.
Well, but then you come across, like, at some of the conventions, I've done a couple of really small conventions, and there's people who are like, I'm so proud of you for leaving your house today. It's so good to see you.
You came out of the basement.
Yay. But yeah, I like going out. And glad handing and talking to people.
We were going to talk about going on a book tour.
Yeah.
And I just went on a book tour for I'm in an anthology called Nasty that went crazy, went really big, really fast. And it's funny, so I met the editor, Tiffany Scandal, I did Pal's Bookstore last year. I did their small press palooza for my book. Kevin Sampson was nice enough to invite me, and I met Tiffany Scandal. She told this really great blood story that was so fantastic. I remembered it. And then her and I have a mutual friend who is amazing. She's a Portland rock star. Her name's Jennifer Robin. And you should have her book in here. She's so incredibly good. But anyway, met Tiffany Scandal, and she friended me on Facebook, and then one day she just randomly wrote me, and she said, so I'm putting together this anthology called Nasty. Do you have anything for it? And I just happened to have this essay that had been rejected 7 times by 7 big places. And one of them, the Rumpus, the editor for the Rumpus, she said, try this other place. It's not a good place for the Rumpus, but you should try it over here, which I thought was really nice of her, because usually they're like, thank you for your time, blah, blah, blah. But it got rejected from the Jewel by 5 editors at the Jewel. And each one wrote like a paragraph. Like, it was really crazy, the amount of feedback I got. But they said it was too sexual. And I still to this day find that interesting, because it's about being a businesswoman and microhemorrhaging literally at a business function. And then later on, I wrote a thing on Facebook about how the state of Washington was going to start taxing feminine hygiene products. And I wrote a Facebook post about that, being like, don't we get screwed enough with like more expensive haircuts and more expensive shoes and whatever? And I ended up, this guy wrote a comment, and he was like, oh, I'm so glad I don't have to listen to my ex-wife talk about her period anymore. And the story is about my response to him, of like what it's really like, and how we actually don't share half the crap with you, and how hard it is to like kind of do this thing. So they said that was too sexual, and I was furious, because I was like, I wasn't humping anybody.
Right.
In this story, I was just telling you what it's a normal thing to do, while you guys are all like living your life. I'm literally losing a pint of blood.
Right.
And trying to catch it so it doesn't disturb you. So it got rejected 7 times, and so when Tiffany Scandal asked me if I had like a nasty essay, I was like, oh, do I? And she loved it, and it's an anthology with all these great women from around the country. And then it took off, and I didn't expect it. I kind of didn't think anything of it when I gave it to her, because she came back a year later, and she's like, here's the book. And it was right after I bought my bar, which the timing was horrid. And then there were all these events to go to, and it was getting bigger and bigger. And the next thing you know, we were going to Philadelphia and New York City. And I was really excited about it. And so I took my middle son to come with me. But it was so hard to get from one event to another in Manhattan. I'd been in New York City 4 other times, but never on a time frame. And to suddenly have to get to like an actual building by a certain time, which was always 6 o'clock, was so hard. And then we'd get there, and we were like sweating and hot, and there were 5 of us trying to coordinate getting to these events, and that was really hard. It was exhausting. And then we had other personalities that we were traveling with that made it kind of hard too. And every woman's a badass in the book, and you get any group of badass women together, and there's gonna just be some thorns. There's no way not to. But we got through it, and it was all good in the end. But the book was a really good success. It was a fundraiser for Planned Parenthood, so
I love that.
that was pretty rad. But that's all done now. And I love doing book publicity. I love it. But I was trying to tell the newbies in that book that I said, we're going to do events that are going to be total failures.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way it is. And I told them about how I did a book show in Seattle that not one person showed up at.
Well, actually, my last signing was here,
Uh-huh.
and my sister-in-law stopped by, which was really nice. But we spent the whole time planning this podcast.
Yeah.
So
How fortuitous.
But that stuff happens, and then you have
Yeah.
other events where there's like 100 people.
right.
And you can never quite get why, and so it's best not to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, and my weirdest moment, I was working Rose City Comic Con, and there's thousands of people walking by, and this girl walks up, and I wrote a murder book called S is for Serial, and it's about serial killers in Oregon and Washington, a serial killer and his family. But anyway, she walks from like far away, like because I was people watching, and I saw her, and she like beelines for me. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I read that book, and it's so amazing." And I'm like, "I don't even know who you are. I don't know what's happening right now."
That's weird, isn't it? Weird when like they think they kind of know you
Yeah.
a little bit. Like, I mean, it's great if you're proud of what you've done, you know what I mean?
Right.
But it is kind of strange. Like when I bought my bar, I was on the cover of the newspaper, and then I was on the cover of Coast Weekend and like stuff.
Right.
And I still have this a lot where I go into places and everybody knows who I am, either from my book that's called Nasty, or from the bar, and you come preloaded everywhere you go, and they don't really know me. And I wrote about that in my book. In my last chapter, I was like, I can't be funny all the time. I can't be on all the time.
Right.
It's exhausting. I'm actually a really intense person, in person. And then, if you ever watch like stand-up comedians and you watch interviews with them, they're not funny. They're like on it. They're reading the news, or they're, whatever.
Right.
And I'm like, that you're not always on.
Yeah. That's how it is here. I feel a lot like I'm under a microscope because it's
Yeah.
a very small town. I went to high school here. Everyone here knows me. I know everyone. I can't go anywhere without anyone knowing who I am. Everyone knows my husband and my kids.
So you can't have a bad moment or a bad day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, I have to bite my tongue and just be.
Yeah, like
chill
I
all
tip
the time.
really high now.
Yeah.
Because
I know.
everybody talks in my town, and I was like, God, this place sucks, but oh well. Big tip.
Yeah, there is a lot of that. Just
But I'm also not going to play. I mean, fortunately, I own, a really historic bar, and I bought it from a woman who was like really loud and she wasn't some shy person, and I don't have to be sweet all the time. It's not a diner.
Yeah.
I was like, this is a dive bar, and if you don't fucking like it, there's the door. You may leave. I don't really care. And then my books aren't exactly like polite, so I do have that on my shoulders.
The nice thing that I have is that I can ask you to leave in such a way that you think maybe I'm complimenting you. And
You have that southern charm.
I do, because I had a guy come in the other day that was like, "Why is your coffee so expensive? I could get it at the gas station for $1." And I
You
was
were like, go ahead.
yeah, it's like, so I told him like it's all small batch roasted and it's all local and organic, but you are certainly, the gas station does
needs
have
support.
fantastic coffee, and I really feel like you'd be helping them.
Some southern charm, exactly.
Yeah.
The white woman backstabbing bitch.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
I do have. I'm good at passive aggressive.
I don't do passive aggressive because I find it exhausting. It's like playing a secondary game,
Yeah.
and I don't like that. But this woman did tell me, who owns the coffee shop next to my bar, she said I'm very passive aggressive when I first met her, and I was like, well, remember that. Now I don't trust that now. But she's actually super sweet and stuff. But she was saying that she is, and I was like, why don't you just say what you actually mean? I mean, in that instance with the guy, I get that.
I think I need to add more aggression
Really?
to my passivity.
In Diva Cups, we have 2 things to work on today.
No, you do need to give me lessons on I don't know.
I still really think it is a very funny thing that I would like to write about, that you think because you didn't have a mom, you didn't know how to put a tampon in, as if a mom was sitting there showing me how to put a tampon in.
I don't know.
It was
I think
more
that's-
like luck of the draw, where I was like, is it supposed to hurt this bad? No. Okay, try again.
Yeah, I don't know. I may use that as a crutch for my
Yeah.
bodies.
Right, yeah. I know, it's true.
So it could be that.
My mom wasn't doing anything, although my mom was really sweet when I got my period. She took me out for ice cream. I remember that was like a thing. And she did teach me a couple things, but...
My mom was like, this sucks. Here's your brown paper bag. There's no instructions. Good luck.
You don't remember the drawings? I remember, it might have been like in the tampon box. There was a drawing of
Yeah,
like
see, I didn't get the box.
tampon going in. But I was on swim team
I
too.
got the loose.
You got the loose
I
stuff.
got the loose stuff.
Here's some different sizes.
Yeah.
Here's a bag. There's the bathroom figured out.
That's right. That's it.
I just remember I am 48, so I was born in 69, and I'm right on the cusp of when belts went away.
Mhm.
So they were still selling the sanitary belts.
I know that from Judy Blume books.
Right.
I
I
love
never
that.
used one because I was a modern.
Oh.
I was there. It was pre-wings, post-belts. There was a time when it was just a sticky pad that would
Right.
twist and turn and rip your genital air. Oh, God, they're horrible. But I do remember there were belts around, but they seemed so archaic to me. Like when I'd go to my grandma's house and she had tooth powder. I remember being like, what is tooth powder? She still used it, like until in her 80s and stuff. So there were belts around, but God, they were so big. They were big. My friend is, one of my good friends, she's 10 years older than me, and she was like, no, I used belts. So I was right at that age.
Yeah, no, I've never seen one, but I just remember the description from Judy Blume.
I'm sure there's museums.
I
what,
think so.
What we're gonna do? We're gonna do a class. We'll video it. $49.95.
How to? What are we gonna do?
No.
Tampons or Diva cups? We should just go straight to Diva cups.
No. Every month's a complete surprise to me too. I'm like, what is happening? This is so weird. Every
What does this
single
have
month.
to do with? You're like the woman from Blue Lagoon when she thought she was dying. No,
I'm-
that was Thornbirds. She thought she was dying because she was bleeding, and she told the priest that she was like,
Oh.
"Dear Father, I'm dying."
No, I am like Blue Lagoon, wherein she was like pregnant and was like, why is this happening? Yeah,
Because you got married when you were a baby.
that is true.
That is
I
true.
did.
That's why you are 17 years. Yeah.
Yeah, he's taught me more. I think than Judy Blume. Very patient.
Oh my God, what would we have done without Judy Blume? I mean,
I don't know.
serious.
I want to meet her and just be like, you helped me so much.
So here's the thing. So I met Judy Blume because my mom was a teacher and she went to like a teacher show and Judy Blume was there.
Oh,
So
man.
I got to meet her and I have a freckle juice that says to Diana, like
Aw.
Judy Blume to this day.
That's
Made with the
awesome.
old paper that's kind of falling
Yeah.
apart because apparently I don't know, I'm super old or something. But
I think I must have done increased our bus too many times.
I must.
Yeah.
I just remember the.
Between 5th and 6th grade, I think I did that too much because things happened. Also a surprise to me.
Still not sure what to do with them.
I'm definitely not.
Just wearing tank tops until further notice.
Exactly, yeah. They seem to be a hit, I don't know.
Oh gosh, but
I'm
there's
terrified of
been
everything.
no like Judy Blume since. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't know who would fall into that category. Like, what would maybe a 28-year-old say was their Judy Blume?
All they talk about is Twilight, and I'm like, what did you learn? I only finished that series because I wanted to see if they were going to get it on and how that worked. And then I was just like,
Oh, I know. I'm gonna have the very, very unpopular opinion that I liked the Twilight. I never read the books, but I watched snippets of the movies. And what I liked about it is that Kristen Stewart is so horrible
yeah.
that I just couldn't stop watching it because I kept waiting for something to happen. And it didn't, but it was like pretzels. Like I just keep eating them, but pretzels aren't
Yeah.
actually good.
I see that.
Twilight was like that.
The only person, I knew that I was old when the only person I could identify with in that entire series was her dad. When he's like, get away from that sparkly
Well, because
kid,
he
he's
was
bad.
kind of hot when he was younger, so we like know him.
Well, but he was like, he's like codependent or something. I'm like, yeah, you should
that's
get
a
away from
bad
that guy.
relationship.
Yeah,
I know. It's so stupid.
I was like, no, I don't.
I do
understand
kind of
any this.
defend Twilight in a very unpopular way because that's what I do. I love to play devil's advocate. That and 50 Shades, I will defend it when people bash on it, not in literary circles, but just in regular worlds, because I'm like, so I was in Malaysia at a pool, true story, watching women reading 50 Shades of Grey in like 3 different languages. So, fuck off.
Yeah.
Did you do that?
I
No.
know, I
Nobody
know.
even knows your name, but they
I
did
know.
that.
And it makes me feel bad about myself because I'm like, I write better than that. But
It
I
doesn't
don't.
matter.
I
You
know.
didn't pull
I
off
didn't
the
do
coup.
it. I didn't.
Because it's more,
God
it's like
damn
the
it.
Kardashians. Like, bash the Kardashians, but she sold her avatar for $40 million.
I know.
Did anybody else? No.
Yeah.
So what are you going to
Nobody
do?
even asked me if I wanted to sell my avatar though.
I know.
Because you didn't do the stuff,
I know.
right?
I know.
You don't glaze yourself every day like a shiny new
You don't know
donut.
me.
Well, I just assumed after the Diva Cup there was no glazing involved.
No bedazzling, no.
Oh, God, I miss
Yeah.
that train in the bedazzling.
Well, anything, it doesn't matter what I think of a book or a series. If it got somebody to read,
Yeah, that's the point.
then go for it.
Yeah.
I mean, really. And apparently a lot of people learned a lot of shit from 50 Shades of Grey.
I know, that's the other thing. I was like, well, maybe that's the secret. Because what also nobody talks about is 80% of the books sold in the entire world are romance books. And Kindle has changed that for everyone because people don't see the covers anymore.
Right.
So the books can get dirtier and dirtier, and I think that's really what happened, was that women more like were grasping their sexuality with that, and not sitting there going, it's just, I don't know, the writing isn't that good. They were more like, oh, this is hot.
Yeah.
Because the new, like, women's sexuality is becoming so much more acceptable, you know what I mean? And I think that's really kind of what was happening, and I'm not going to bash that. If all these women in Malaysia is a Muslim country, by the way, were reading that book, that was kind of amazing. That's an amazing thing to pull off as some writer somewhere that I don't even know or care about, but people still read. My kids learned how to read through comic books. I wasn't exactly proud, but
It's words.
they're all reading now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We can get too literary sometimes, I think. Some people can.
I was recently invited to join a literary discussion group,
Ooh.
and I...
Here in Castle Rock?
It's virtual, so no.
Okay, I
It's
was
on-
like,
it's
I
online.
didn't think there'd be enough people to
No,
be in that.
and
Would it just be
I'm
us?
It's just me
from
being a dick
Longview.
about books.
Yeah. It's just Jen.
You can't be too dickish about books because you sell them.
I know, but I will force you into the books that I like.
Oh, well, I'll force you
Yeah.
to get the cocktail you
Yeah.
want in my bar too.
Yeah, see? Same
Okay.
thing.
Well,
I'm not snobby about it though.
with this group, I just don't click. I don't know.
Well, see,
I get
then,
it.
right, because I'm going to be sitting there going, but 50 Shades of Grey sold a bunch of books, and everyone in the group will be like, you're out.
Yeah.
Because I said something they don't agree with.
Yeah,
So I've been in a lot of writing groups, and I've been kicked out of every one of them. And I had this I was just telling this story yesterday. This guy told me a horrible joke that I will not say on this podcast. But he told it to me, and it was hilarious because he knew it was that bad, and it was so awkward. It like shut everybody up. He knew that was going to happen.
Do you know my father-in-law?
Yeah. God, it was the most inappropriate joke. But I was telling him about how I have a friend named Jason Arias who has a book coming out this year. And he was in this writing group that I was in. And he read this story about cooking a baby in the oven. And I remember this group was super judgy McJudgy. And they used to come after me all the time. Like the woman who ran the group would make jokes all the time about how I was over-sexualized. And I was like, you do know that's what I write. I write like feminist sexual stories, yes. So he wrote the story, and I was like jaw-dropped when he read it because it was so weird. I was never going to forget this story, ever. And then everybody in the group was talking about how it was inappropriate, it was whatever. Guess who are the two people in that group who have book deals?
Ah.
Me and him.
Nice.
And I'm like, yeah, you gotta be a little fearless. Gotta be a little fearless in that. He was very Arthur Bradford, who was just so inappropriate. I love him. Have you read Arthur Bradford?
I have not.
He's a Portland author who wrote
Okay.
a book called Turtle Face. And it's so weird. I remember every story in the book.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. He's been in GQ and he's been in Men's Health. His stories have been. And he's in McSweeney's all the time. He's a very funny dude.
Nice.
Yes.
Good to know.
Yeah.
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, me too.
So she was telling me that you have boys.
I have.
We all have boys.
Yes. I have a 6-year-old, I have a 37-year-old, and I have a 68-year-old. I'm a time traveler.
Nice. 7 and 11.
7 and 11, and I have 11, 14, and 17-year-old boys.
So many farts.
So many
Oh my
farts.
gosh.
Yeah.
All the farts.
And just a lot of smell.
Oh, so much smell.
So much smell.
Like
and
a cheesy, salty.
yeah, my friend described it as chicken noodle soup as the pre-BO stage, and it's very true.
With
A
like some
strong-
burrito.
Yeah, maybe a little burrito.
Yeah.
I went camping with my whole family a couple weeks ago, and we were in the redwoods.
Mm-hmm.
My 17-year-old just rode his bike down the coast by himself, and it was very exciting. And we went camping. We have a little pop-up trailer thing, and they were farting so much in that trailer that I actually got mad. Usually I laugh and I think it's hilarious. I got mad because the whole campground had to listen, because it was at all times of day and night, and it was as if they didn't think the walls were canvas. And I felt as if their asses were invading on every single person at the campground. And I got mad, and I left, and I went to the office, and I read my book for like 3 hours because I couldn't stand them anymore. It was so incredibly bad.
And now I'm looking forward to going camping with my son.
Yes.
Next week.
Thanks.
We're going in 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least we'll be at the KOA, so.
And you know what? They don't tell you when you become a parent that you are involved in hygiene for way longer than you should be.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
way longer. I mean, a mom just recently told me I should keep a deodorant in my glove compartment. I was like, God, that would have been smart. I didn't think about that.
I have one for me, because I always forget.
Oh, God, they get in my car from some event and I'm dead. I'm dying. It's awful.
So what
And-
are we going to talk about next time? Because we're going to come to you.
Oh, you're going to come to my bar?
Yeah.
Well, we could talk about the people in the bar. They're interesting. There's so many interesting people. There's recently I had to kick a prostitute out of the bar. We could talk about that. That's
Okay.
exciting.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of very troubled late night people that come in after midnight. There's a little meth thing going on. That's super fun. There's the gamblers versus the drinkers. They don't mix very much. Mhm.
Interesting.
And then the bartenders alone deserve a book.
Yeah.
Because, God, they are the most tolerant, sassy-ass women of all time. I adore them.
Yeah, my best friend moonlights as a bartender, and
The bartender culture.
she's gorgeous, and she's hilarious,
Mhm.
and she has all those drunks just wrapped around her.
I know. My bar manager told me to treat all the men like they want to be spanked, and you'll do just fine. So it's really good advice.
That is.
Mm-hmm. I know. I'm still
I don't know that I could be a bartender. I don't know. I might try it, though, for entertainment.
The what? Treating them like they all want to
No,
be spanked.
just being a bartender in general. I don't know.
I think you'd be really good. You just don't know that. We'd have to put you during happy hour where people aren't, like the late night is a whole nother
If anybody
crowd.
yells at me, I will cry.
Oh, nobody yells at the bartenders. The
Okay.
bartenders are definitely in charge.
Okay.
Mm.
They're kind of everyone's best friend because they have. all the
Everybody
I can
loves
do
them.
that.
Yeah. The hard part for me, because I've bartended there, even though I try not to bartend. The hard part for me is there are men that just want to challenge you. They want to get the upper hand. They want to kind of scare you a little bit. Those are the men that I just have to walk away with, especially if they find out I'm the owner. They come after me a little bit harder, and it's kind of become some sort of arm wrestling game of who's cooler. I always want to say, why don't you whip yours out and I'll whip mine out. We'll see who wins. All it is a contest of who's dickier.
I'm not very competitive.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, these guys you wouldn't want to compete with.
No.
They're the douches, but that's not most of the bars not like that.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this has been a long chat.
Has it?
It
It's
it
flown
has.
by.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's been perfect.
Fantastic.
So,
It makes up for all of the. Actually, all of our
they've all been
episodes are all
fantastic.
fantastic.
I know. If I do say so myself, and I do. So they should definitely stay tuned for next time because
Yes.
we're going to be on location
Yeah.
at Workers.
At Workers Tavern.
Yeah,
In Astoria,
with fries.
which is a cool hip town. Yeah, with dirty fries.
Yeah, for me. You can't
Yeah.
have any.
No, I don't like them.
You're so weird. All right, well, join us next time, and we're going to talk again, and it's going to be fantastic. Bye.